Why am I handcuffed to you? The words came out of my mouth before my brain even finished waking up. My voice sounded wrecked. My head felt like somebody had filled it with wet cement. For a second, I just stared at the ceiling of the Airbnb living room, trying to understand why the room smelled like cheap beer, cold pizza, and somebody's terrible cologne. Then I tried to sit up. Metal snapped tight around my wrist. Something yanked back. Hard. A body shifted beside me. Miles Carter groaned from the floor, face half buried in a couch pillow that definitely did not belong to him. His hair was a mess. His black t-shirt was twisted at the collar. One shoe was still on. The other was missing. And his left wrist was locked to my right one with a pair of silver handcuffs. Real handcuffs. Not plastic. Not a party prop. Real enough to bite into my skin when I pulled again like an idiot. Miles blinked slowly, then looked at me, then at the cuffs, then back at me. There was this long, awful pause where neither of us moved. My stomach dropped so fast I almost felt sober. "Morning, husband," he mumbled. I stared at him. "Don't call me that." His mouth twitched like he was trying not to smile. "Sorry. Morning, legally questionable life partner. Miles. Evan." He said my name too softly for someone who had just woken up attached to me after a bachelor party. That was the problem with Miles. He made everything sound casual, even the things that made my chest tighten. I tried to sit up again, slower this time, and he had to move with me. Our shoulders bumped. His knee brushed mine. Too close. Way too close. I told myself it meant nothing. We were hungover. We were trapped. This was probably just one of the guys being stupid. That was all. Still, my pulse would not calm down. Across the room, the aftermath of Trevor's bachelor party looked like a crime scene for idiots. Empty cans on the coffee table. A plastic crown on the lamp. Somebody's tie hanging from the ceiling fan. My phone was dead beside an overturned bowl of chips. Miles rubbed his face with his free hand, then winced when the cuff tugged mine. "Okay," he muttered. "Quick question. What? Do you remember anything after karaoke?" I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. I remembered the bar. I remembered Miles laughing so hard at my terrible version of Mr. Brightside that he had to lean against me. I remembered someone yelling that Miles, and I acted married anyway. After that, it was just flashes. Warm lights. Loud music. His hand on my back, guiding me through a crowd. Me laughing too hard. Him watching me like he was about to say something serious. Then nothing. "No," I admitted. His eyes flicked away. Just for half a second. But I saw it. Miles remembered something. "You do," I said. "Not really." That was the least convincing lie I've ever heard. He looked down at our wrists, quiet now. The joke left his face, and that scared me more than the handcuffs. Before I could ask again, I noticed something folded inside his palm. A torn piece of paper, soft and crumpled, like he had been holding it all night. I reached for it without thinking. Miles closed his fingers. Too late. I'd already seen the words written across it in black marker. "Don't let them separate us." My throat went dry. Miles didn't move. Neither did I. And suddenly, waking up handcuffed to my best friend didn't feel like the strangest part anymore. I stared at the paper for way too long, like the words might rearrange themselves into something less insane. Don't let them separate us. That was not a normal drunk note. That was not a bachelor party joke. That was the kind of thing you found in a movie right before two people ruined a perfectly good friendship. Miles cleared his throat and shoved the paper into the pocket of his jeans, which was impressive considering he had to drag my arm with him to do it. "Okay, before you make that face." "What face?" "The face you make when your brain starts building a courtroom." I looked at him. "Why were you holding that?" "I do not know. You just hid it like evidence. Because you were looking at me like a detective with trust issues." He was joking, but his smile did not quite land. That was what bothered me. Miles could talk his way out of anything. Bad dates, parking tickets, awkward family dinners. One time he convinced a bartender we deserved free fries because Trevor's fantasy football team lost by 1 point. But now, sitting on the floor with his wrist locked to mine, he looked careful, like one wrong sentence might pull something open. I swallowed and glanced around the living room again. Where is everybody? Dead, probably. From behind the couch, somebody snored like a broken lawnmower. I leaned a little and saw Darren face down on an air mattress, still wearing sunglasses. Trevor, the groom, was curled in an armchair with the plastic crown on his stomach. The whole place looked like a frat house had lost a fight with a wedding planner. "We need the key." "Great plan." Miles lifted our joined hands. "You want to ask the corpses?" I gave him a look. He gave me one back. Then, without warning, he reached over with his free hand and touched the inside of my wrist where the cuff had rubbed red. My whole body went still. It was not a big touch, just his thumb brushing lightly over the skin, checking if it hurt. But it felt way too gentle for the situation. "You are getting marked up," he murmured. I pulled my hand back too fast, which only yanked his with it. "I am fine. You always say that when you are not." My chest tightened. I hated that he knew that. I hated it more because he was right. "Do you remember anything after karaoke?" I tried again. Miles looked toward the kitchen, where half a cake sat on the counter with a fork stuck directly in it. "Bits." "What bits?" His jaw moved like he was chewing on the answer. "There was a game. A game involving police equipment? They were not supposed to be real handcuffs." "That is comforting." He breathed out a laugh, but his eyes stayed on mine a second too long. "You were laughing." I blinked. "At what?" "Me." "That narrows it down." "No, I mean." He stopped, then looked at our hands like the cuffs had personally betrayed him. "You were laughing at me because everyone kept saying we acted married." He crept up my neck. "Of course they said that. They always said that. Evan and Miles, the old married couple. Evan and Miles, who bickered at Target. Evan and Miles, who knew each other's coffee orders and somehow still pretended that was normal. That is just their thing," I muttered. "Yeah." His voice dipped. "That is what I said too." Something about the way he said it made my stomach flip. Too quiet. Too careful. Before I could ask what that meant, Trevor made a horrible noise in the armchair and lifted his head. His eyes were bloodshot. His plastic crown slid sideways. He looked at me, then Miles, then our wrists. Slowly, a grin spread across his face. "Oh my God, do not," I warned. Trevor pointed at us like he had found buried treasure. "Wait, you two seriously do not remember the fake proposal?" Miles went completely still beside me. My heart started pounding again. "The what?" Trevor looked way too proud of himself for a man who had slept upright in a chair with frosting on his sleeve. "The fake proposal," he repeated, like that made it less insane. My mouth went dry. Miles did not say anything. That was the first bad sign. Miles always said something. Usually the wrong thing, but still. "Okay," I forced out. "Nobody panic. I am sure this is just Trevor being dramatic because he has a wedding in 2 weeks and no emotional stability." Trevor pointed at me. Rude, but accurate. He dug around between the chair cushions and pulled out his phone. Luckily, there is video. Miles moved so fast the cuff snapped tight between us. "Trevor, do not." The room went quiet in that strange way a room gets quiet when a joke suddenly stops being a joke. Darren lifted his head from the air mattress, sunglasses crooked on his face. "Are we watching the proposal?" "No," Miles cut in. "Too sharp. Too awake. Too not funny." I turned to look at him. "Why not?" His throat moved. "Because it is embarrassing. Everything about this morning is embarrassing. Evan. Just my name. Low. Careful. Like a warning. Like a plea. That should have made me drop it. It did not. Because now my heart was pounding, and that stupid crumpled note was still in his pocket, and Trevor was looking between us like he had accidentally walked into the middle of something private. "Play it," I told him. Miles looked at me then. Not annoyed. Not exactly scared. Worse. Hurt. Like I had stepped somewhere I did not know was tender. Trevor hesitated, which was impressive because Trevor had never hesitated in his life. Then he tapped the screen. The video started with shouting and bad lighting. Somebody had turned the coffee table into a stage. I was standing on it, red-faced and laughing, wearing the plastic crown sideways. Miles stood beside me with one arm around my waist, keeping me steady. My stomach dropped. Not because of the arm. Miles had touched me like that 100 times. At parties. In crowded bars. In grocery store aisles when I was blocking people without noticing. But on the video, his hand was not casual. His fingers were spread carefully against my side, like he was afraid I might disappear if he let go. Trevor's drunk voice came through the speaker. "All right, fake couple challenge. Miles, what do you love most about Evan?" Everyone laughed. I laughed too. Video me shoved Miles lightly. "Do not answer that. He is going to say my terrible driving." But Miles did not laugh. On the screen, he just looked at me. The whole room seemed to tilt around that look. Even hung over, even sitting on a sticky Airbnb floor, I felt it in my ribs. He looked at me like the question had actually mattered. Like there were too many answers and none of them were safe. Then Video me stopped laughing. I watched myself notice the silence. Watched my smile turn uncertain. Miles's thumb moved once against my side. Small. Almost nothing. My real wrist tingled under the cuff. Miles, I whispered, but I did not know which Miles I was talking to. The one beside me or the one on the screen. In the video, he finally opened his mouth. I love that he acts like he is hard to read. He said quietly, and nobody laughed this time. But he is not. Not to me. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. The video cut off right there because somebody yelled in the background and the camera swung toward Darren falling into a laundry basket. Trevor snorted. Best part is after that. Miles reached over and locked the phone screen with his free hand. That is enough. My hand was still attached to his, but somehow he felt farther away than he had all morning. I stared at him, waiting for the joke, waiting for the easy grin, waiting for him to say he was drunk, or playing along, or being stupid for the crowd. He gave me none of it. Just looked down at our wrists and rubbed his thumb once over the red mark he had noticed earlier. Gentle. Automatic. Like taking care of me was muscle memory. You were freezing after, he murmured. I gave you my jacket. That is what you remember? My voice came out smaller than I wanted. His eyes lifted to mine. Held there. No, one word. Soft enough that nobody else heard it. Then Trevor, because the universe hated me, grinned and leaned forward. You guys want to know what Evan said during the proposal? Miles closed his eyes. My heart slammed against my ribs. What did I say? You got down on one knee. Trevor announced, way too happily. My soul left my body for a second. I did what? Darren made a weak cheering noise from the air mattress. Miles was still beside me, completely silent, which made everything worse. If this was harmless, he would have laughed by now. He would have thrown a pillow at Trevor or called me an idiot or made some stupid joke about my commitment issues. Instead, his shoulder had gone tense against mine. Trevor held up both hands like he was testifying in court. Relax. It was part of the game. You took a ring pop from the snack table and proposed to Miles in front of all of us. I stared at the floor. Please tell me I moved states immediately after. Nope. He said yes. Miles finally exhaled through his nose. Trevor. What? It was adorable. It was drunk nonsense. Miles's voice stayed calm, but his hand shifted under the cuff, fingers brushing mine by accident. Except it did not feel like an accident. Not completely. My skin went hot right where we touched. I told myself to move away. I did not. Trevor kept going because apparently friendship meant nothing to him. Then somebody yelled, "Kiss your fiancé," and Evan got all serious. My heart stopped. I got serious? Miles stood too fast, yanking me halfway up with him. We need coffee. Ow. Sorry. He caught my elbow with his free hand, steadying me before I fell into the coffee table. His palm stayed there a second too long. Warm. Firm. Careful. For one stupid moment, I forgot there were other people in the room. Miles looked down at me, close enough that I could see the tiny green flecks in his hazel eyes. His expression softened. You okay? I nodded, but my throat felt tight. Yeah. You sure? You keep asking me that. You keep looking like you are about to pass out. Trevor made a kissing sound behind us. Miles did not even look back. One more noise, and I am putting you outside. We shuffled into the kitchen because the cuffs made normal walking impossible. Every step pulled us shoulder to shoulder. I tried to act annoyed. It was safer than acting like my entire nervous system had become aware of his arm. Miles reached for a mug in the cabinet, which dragged my hand with his. I bumped into his side. Sorry. You always apologize for things that are not your fault. That is not true. He glanced at me. You apologized to a vending machine last week. It stole my dollar. I was being mature. He smiled then, small and real, and it hit me harder than it should have. The kitchen was quieter than the living room. Just the old fridge humming, rain tapping lightly against the window, Trevor mumbling something behind the wall. Miles poured water into the coffee maker with one hand while I stood too close because I had no choice. His fingers brushed mine again when he reached for the filter. This time, neither of us pretended not to notice. The space between us shrank. Not by much. Just enough. What happened after they told us to kiss? My voice barely came out. Miles froze. The coffee maker clicked, loud in the silence. He kept his eyes on the counter. Nothing. That is a lie. His jaw tightened. Evan, did I try to kiss you? He turned then. Slowly. The look on his face made my chest ache. Not because it was angry, because it was honest in a way I was not ready for. No, he said quietly. You asked if I wanted you to. The room went still. My hand was hanging between us, chained to his. His thumb rested against the side of mine, not moving. I could have pulled away. He could have pulled away. Neither of us did. And I whispered. Miles looked at my mouth for half a second. Half a second too long. My breath caught. And I said that was a dangerous question. I forgot how to speak. He leaned closer, just slightly, like the answer was still sitting between us waiting to be chosen. Then a drawer slammed in the living room, and Trevor yelled, "Good news! I found waffles." Miles stepped back so fast the cuff clinked between us. The moment shattered. He turned toward the coffee maker like nothing had happened, like he had not almost told me everything with one look. I stood there with my heart pounding, pretending I was fine. But I was starting to understand the worst part. I had not imagined it. Whatever this was, Miles felt it too. By noon, everybody in the Airbnb had decided our situation was the funniest thing that had ever happened to anyone. I disagreed. Strongly. It is hard to act normal when your best friend is chained to your wrist, making coffee with one hand, and looking at you like he almost answered a question he had been avoiding for years. Trevor found waffles in the freezer and acted like he had discovered medicine. Darren kept replaying clips from last night without sound, mostly because Miles threatened to throw his phone into Lake Michigan if he played the audio again. I sat at the kitchen island, trying to eat a burnt waffle with my left hand while Miles stood beside me, close because the cuffs did not give us many options. Every time he reached for syrup or a napkin, my arm moved with his. Every time our shoulders touched, my brain went quiet for a second. "You two are disgusting," Darren mumbled from the couch. "We are handcuffed, not dating." I snapped. Trevor lifted his plastic crown like he was making a toast. That is exactly what a handcuffed couple would say. Everyone laughed. I laughed too, because that was what I was supposed to do. That was the rule. When people joked about me and Miles, I laughed. When someone said we acted married, I rolled my eyes. When Miles flirted too close to the line, I shoved him and called him annoying. Easy. Safe. Except now the laugh felt stuck in my throat. Miles noticed. Of course he did. His eyes flicked toward me, then away, like he wanted to check on me, but did not want everyone to see him checking. That somehow made it worse. Key update. Miles looked at Trevor. Trevor chewed slowly, buying time. So, tiny problem. Trevor, I might have given the key to Logan last night. Darren groaned. Logan left at 7. My whole body sank. Where did he go? Back to Milwaukee. I stared at him. That is 90 miles away. Trevor winced. Give or take. Miles ran his free hand through his hair. You gave the key to a guy who left the state? In my defense, I was celebrating love. You were crying into a taco. A love taco. I should have been annoyed. I was annoyed. But then Miles shifted beside me and gently turned my wrist to look at the red mark again. He did it without thinking, right there in front of everybody. His thumb moved over the skin, softer than it needed to be. The room did not go silent, exactly. But something changed. Darren saw it. Trevor saw it. I felt their attention land on us like heat. I pulled my hand back, pretending to reach for my coffee. The cuff clinked. Miles let me, but his face tightened a little. I am fine, I muttered. I know. His voice was quiet. Too quiet for the room. I just do not want it hurting you. Nobody laughed at that. Not right away. Then Trevor's expression shifted from teasing to something almost careful. Man, he said softer. You guys really do not know, do you? My stomach tightened. Know what? Trevor looked between us. For once, he did not seem drunk or stupid or ready with a joke. Last night was funny at first. The fake couple thing. The proposal. The cuffs. He rubbed the back of his neck. But after a while, it kind of stopped feeling fake. Miles looked away. I felt it through the chain, that tiny movement, like he was trying to retreat without actually leaving. Darren sat up, sunglasses finally off. I thought you two were messing with us. We were, I said too fast. Right. I looked at Miles because I needed him to save me. I needed the grin, the easy out, the little punch to my shoulder. He did not give me one. He just met my eyes, and for a second, all the noise in the Airbnb faded behind him. Yeah, he said finally, but the words sounded thin. Sure, that hurt more than it should have, because it sounded like a lie he was telling for me. Trevor cleared his throat and looked down at his waffle. Logan can drive back with the key, but it will take a few hours. A few hours. More time locked to Miles. More jokes. More eyes on us. More chances to accidentally feel something I was supposed to keep buried. I slid off the stool. I need air. Miles had to move with me. For one awkward second, we just stood there, connected and embarrassed in front of everyone. Then he grabbed his hoodie from the chair and draped it over my shoulders before I could stop him. "It is cold outside." I stared at him. The room went way too quiet again. Miles seemed to realize what he had done at the same time I did. His hand stayed at my collar for half a breath, fingers brushing the fabric near my neck. Then he dropped it. "Come on," he murmured. We walked toward the back door together, the chain swinging softly between us. Behind us, Trevor whispered, not quietly enough, "That is not nothing." Miles heard it. So did I. Neither of us turned around. Outside, the cold hit me hard enough to clear some of the fog in my head. The back porch overlooked a tiny patch of wet grass, a sagging fence, and 3 trash cans that looked like they had also survived the bachelor party. Very romantic. Very us. I stepped out first, forgetting for 1 second that Miles had to step with me. The cuff pulled him forward, and he caught himself with a hand on the doorframe. "Sorry. Stop saying that." His voice was not sharp, just tired. I looked down at the hoodie he had put over my shoulders. His hoodie, dark blue, soft at the sleeves, smelling like laundry detergent, and whatever cologne he wore that always made normal air feel unfair. I started to take it off. "Here." Miles stopped me with 2 fingers on the fabric. Not my skin, just the fabric. Somehow that made it worse. "Keep it on. I am not cold. Your hands are shaking." I looked at my free hand. He was right. I curled it into a fist. Hung over. Evan. There it was again. My name, quiet enough to make my stomach tighten. I hated that he could do that. Just say my name like he knew the part of me I was trying to hide from everybody, including myself. I leaned against the porch railing and stared at the wet boards under my shoes. "They are making it weird." Miles stood beside me, close because the cuff made distance impossible. "They always make things weird." "Not like that." A beat passed. Somewhere inside, Trevor laughed too loudly. Then somebody told him to shut up. Miles did not move. Neither did I. The chain between our wrists hung loose, barely touching my knuckles. "You could have helped," I muttered. "When in there?" When Trevor said it stopped feeling fake. Miles rubbed his thumb against the side of his own hand. "Nervous." That was new. Miles did not get nervous. Miles got charming. Miles got sarcastic. Miles got out of things. "What did you want me to say?" "I do not know." I finally looked at him. Something normal. His eyes held mine. Longer than they should have. "I'm not sure I know how to do that right now." My chest tightened. "What does that mean?" He let out a breath and looked toward the yard, jaw tense. For a second, I thought he would dodge it again. Make a joke. Call me dramatic. Point out that I had waffle crumbs on my shirt or something stupid and safe. Instead, he stayed quiet. Too quiet. Then he lifted our cuffed hands a little, not high, just enough for both of us to see the metal between us. This should feel ridiculous. I swallowed. "It does." "Yeah." His mouth twitched, but not into a smile. "But not only ridiculous." I forgot how to breathe for a second. The air felt too cold and too thin. "Miles." "I know." He closed his eyes briefly, like he regretted starting but could not stop now. "I know how this sounds." "No, I do not think you do." Last night, when everyone kept calling us a couple, I kept waiting to hate it. His voice dropped lower. I did not. My heart hit once hard. "You were drunk." "Not enough for that." I tried to laugh, but it came out wrong. "You flirt when you are drunk. You flirt when you are bored. You flirt with baristas when they spell your name right." "Not like that." He turned fully toward me, and because of the cuff, I had to turn too. The porch was small. The space between us got smaller. "Not with you." I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. It did not come. His face looked open in a way I had almost never seen. Careful. Scared. Still Miles, but without the armor. "I thought you were joking," I whispered. "I thought you needed me to be." That landed somewhere deep and painful. I looked away first because if I kept looking at him, I was going to say something I could not take back. "We are best friends." "I know. This could ruin everything." "I know that too." His fingers shifted near mine. The chain moved softly. Then his pinky brushed mine. Barely. He started to pull back, like he had done it by accident, but I did not move. So he stopped. For one quiet second, our hands just stayed there, touching because neither of us was brave enough to call it holding hands. "I do not want to go back to pretending nothing is happening," Miles admitted. My throat went tight. "Since when?" He gave this tiny, helpless laugh, staring down at our almost touching hands. That is the part one I'm scared to answer. The back door creaked behind us. Both of us pulled away so fast the cuff clinked loud between us. Trevor stuck his head out, eyes bouncing from my hoodie to Miles's face to our wrists. Logan just texted. He said carefully, "Key is on the way." Miles nodded once. I did not say anything, because the key was coming. The handcuffs were temporary, but the thing between us did not feel temporary anymore. For the next hour, everybody acted like nothing had happened, which somehow made everything worse. Logan was on his way with the key. Trevor was cleaning the living room because guilt had finally located him. Darren was pretending not to watch us every time Miles and I moved around the kitchen together. And Miles was suddenly very good at not looking at me. That was new. He still helped when the cuff caught on a drawer handle. Still shifted his body so I could reach my phone charger. Still quietly passed me a glass of water before I even realized I needed one. But the softness from the porch was gone, folded away somewhere I could not reach. I told myself that was fine. Maybe it was better. Maybe we had both gotten too close to something and scared ourselves sober. Maybe the key would arrive, the cuffs would come off, and we would laugh about this in 6 months with enough distance to make it harmless. That thought should have made me feel better. It did not. Around 2, I found Miles in the hallway outside the bathroom, leaning against the wall with his phone in his free hand. Since I was still attached to him, I had no choice but to stand there too. His screen lit up with a message before he could turn it away. "Noah, you disappeared fast. Coffee later this week?" My stomach tightened before I could stop it. Noah, the guy from Miles's old job. The one who had shown up at the diner and touched his shoulder like it was normal. Miles locked the screen immediately. Too quickly. I stared at the faded wallpaper like it had become fascinating. "You can answer him." Miles looked at me. "What?" "Noah." I forced a shrug, which was stupid because he could feel the movement through the cuff. "You do not have to ignore people because I am stuck to you." His brows pulled together. "That is not why I ignored it." "Right." I tried to move past him, forgetting there was nowhere to go. The cuff tugged. He caught my wrist gently, not letting it twist. "Evan, I am fine. You are doing it again." I laughed once, quiet and ugly. "Doing what?" "Pretending you are fine when you are not." Something snapped in my chest. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just enough. "Maybe I am trying to be normal, Miles. Since apparently that is what we are supposed to do until the key gets here." His face changed. Just a little. Like I had hit exactly where he was already bruised. "Is that what you think I want? You tell me." The hallway felt too narrow. Too warm. Too quiet. In the living room, Trevor dropped something and cursed, but it sounded far away. Miles let go of my wrist slowly. "I am trying not to push you." "By shutting down?" "By not ruining your life because I got emotional on a porch while hungover." I blinked. The anger wobbled. "That is not what happened." "Is it not?" His voice stayed low, but there was something rough under it now. "You looked terrified, Evan." I swallowed. "Because I was." "Exactly. Not of you." He went still. The words were already out, and I could not pull them back. My heart started pounding hard enough to make me lightheaded. Miles stared at me like he wanted to believe it, but did not trust himself to. Then what? I looked down at the cuffs. The metal between us suddenly felt heavier than it had all day. Of losing this, I admitted. Us. The stupid Target fights. The coffee runs. You showing up at my apartment like you pay rent there. Movie nights where you steal the good blanket and act like I am unreasonable for wanting half of it. My voice thinned. I hated that. I know how to be your best friend. I do not know what happens if we try to be something else, and it breaks. Miles did not answer right away. His throat moved. His eyes dropped to our hands, close but not touching. I am scared of that too. I looked up. He gave me this small, sad smile that barely made it onto his face. That is why I kept joking. A joke can survive getting rejected. My chest hurt. Miles. Before he could say anything else, the front door opened. Logan's voice came from the entryway, bright and clueless. "Anybody order one tiny key and a lifetime of regret." The whole house erupted. Trevor cheered. Darren yelled something about freedom. Miles stepped back before I did. The chain pulled tight between us, then loosened. His face closed again, not completely, but enough that I felt the distance. Logan walked in waving the key. Everyone crowded around, laughing, relieved. And all I could think was, in a few seconds, Miles would not have to stand close anymore. He would not have to touch my wrist or walk beside me or stay when things got uncomfortable. The key slid into the lock. One click, then another. The cuff opened around Miles first. His hand fell away from mine. Just like that, the space between us came back. Miles rubbed his wrist and smiled at everyone like it was funny, like it was over. Then he looked at me, and the smile slipped. "Guess you are free now," he murmured. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt empty. The second the cuffs came off, everybody treated it like the ending. Trevor clapped like we had survived a hostage situation. Darren made a dramatic speech about personal freedom. Logan took a photo of the handcuffs on the coffee table and said he was putting it in the wedding slideshow, which made Trevor yell at him for 5 straight minutes. I laughed when I was supposed to. Miles laughed too. That was the worst part. He slid right back into normal like he had practiced it in the mirror. Easy smile. Dumb jokes. Shoulder bump when he passed me in the kitchen. "You survived me," he told me, holding up a bottle of water. Barely. I took it from him without letting our fingers touch. His eyes dropped to my hand. Just for a second. Then he looked away. There it was. The new distance. Small enough nobody else would notice. Big enough to make my chest ache. By late afternoon, everyone started packing. The living room looked less like a crime scene and more like a regular bad decision. I found my charger under the couch, my jacket in the laundry room, and one of my shoes behind the television. Miles barely spoke to me except to ask if I had seen his car keys. Normal things. Safe things. Nothing about the porch. Nothing about Noah. Nothing about jokes surviving rejection. I told myself to let it go. That was the smart thing. The adult thing. Then I saw his duffel bag by the front door. Miles was in the hallway, pulling on his jacket. "You leaving?" My voice came out too flat. He paused. "Yeah. Thought I would head out before traffic gets stupid." We all drove together. "Logan can take you." He did not look at me when he said it. That did it. Something in me finally stopped cooperating. So that is it. Miles zipped his jacket halfway, then stopped. "Evan. No. Do not do that." My hands felt cold, and I hated that he could probably see it. "Do not say my name like you were trying to calm down a dog at the vet." His mouth twitched, but the smile did not last. "I am not leaving because of you." That is a terrible lie. He looked at me then. Really looked. The hallway was narrow, half-lit, too quiet compared to the chaos in the living room. His car keys were in his hand. He kept turning them over once, twice, like his fingers needed something to do. "I am leaving because I do not trust myself to stay," he admitted. The words hit harder than I expected. What does that mean? It means if I stay, I am going to keep looking at you like that. And Trevor is going to notice. Darren already noticed. Logan will make some joke, and you will laugh like it does not hurt, and I will hate myself for putting you there. I had no answer. Not right away. Miles stepped closer, then stopped himself, like he had reached the edge of a line only he could see. "You asked me what I wanted last night." His voice was rough now. Quiet. "When everyone told us to kiss. You asked if I wanted you to." My throat tightened. "And you said it was dangerous." "Because I did." He swallowed. I wanted to say yes. The hallway went still. I could hear Trevor in the other room arguing about missing socks. I could hear the hum of the heater. I could hear myself breathing too fast. Miles looked scared. Not of me. Of the words hanging there now, impossible to take back. "I wanted to say yes," he repeated softer. "And that freaked me out because you are my best friend. You are the person I call when everything sucks. You are the person who knows how I take coffee and which side of the couch I like. I do not know how to risk that and survive it if I am wrong." I stared at him, heart pounding so hard it made my ribs hurt. "You are not wrong." His eyes flicked over my face. "Do not say that because you feel bad. I am saying it because I am tired." My laugh broke a little. I am tired of pretending every joke is just a joke. I am tired of acting like I do not notice when you look at me. I am tired of being jealous over guys I have no right to be jealous of. Miles went quiet. His fingers stopped moving around the keys. "Noah." I looked away. "Shut up. Evan. I know it is stupid." "It is not." He took one more step. This time he did not stop. The space between us shrank to almost nothing, but he did not touch me. He just held my eyes, careful and steady. I was not answering Noah because I wanted coffee with him. Then why? Because I was trying to figure out how to tell him no without admitting the reason was standing right in front of me, wearing my hoodie. My chest went tight. I had forgotten I still had it on. My fingers curled around the sleeve. For a second, neither of us moved. Then Miles lifted his hand slowly, giving me every chance to step back. I did not. His fingertips brushed the cuff mark on my wrist, lighter than before. Not because he had to. Because he chose to. "I do not want to go back," he whispered. I looked at his hand on my wrist, then back at him. Then do not leave. His eyes softened, and for the first time all day, he looked like he might actually stay. Miles did not move for a few seconds. He just stood there in the hallway with his hand around my wrist, thumb resting over the faint red mark the handcuffs left behind. It was barely anything now. A little irritated skin. A small reminder of the stupidest morning of my life. But when he touched it, my whole chest went quiet. Not calm exactly, just still, like some part of me had finally stopped running. If I stay, Miles murmured, we have to be honest. I tried to smile. It came out nervous. That sounds terrible. His mouth curved a little. Yeah, I hate it already. But he did not let go. Neither did I. That was the first choice, I think. Not the big dramatic kind. No music. No rain. No perfect movie lighting. Just Miles in a half-lit hallway, holding my wrist because he wanted to, and me not pulling away because I was done pretending I did not want him there. From the living room, Trevor yelled, Miles, are you leaving or emotionally processing near the coat rack? Miles closed his eyes. I almost laughed. I forgot they exist. Must be nice, I whispered. He looked at me then, softer. Come with me. My stomach flipped. Where? He nodded toward the living room. There. I understood what he meant before he said it. Not a date. Not a speech. Not an announcement with labels we were not ready to hold in front of everyone. Just walking back into the room together. Not hiding. Not stepping apart like we had been caught doing something wrong. My hand found his before I could overthink it. Fingers brushing first, then sliding into place. Miles looked down, and the smile that hid his face was small, almost disbelieving. Like he had been waiting for that one simple thing longer than either of us knew. No handcuffs this time, he said quietly. My throat tightened, but I managed to roll my eyes. Do not ruin it by being cute. You think I am cute. I think you are exhausting. Same thing. We walked into the living room holding hands. Nobody noticed at first. Trevor was stuffing cups into a trash bag. Darren was trying to zip an overpacked suitcase with his knee on it. Logan was eating chips directly from the bag like society had failed him. Then Trevor looked up. His eyes dropped to our hands. For once, he did not make a joke immediately. He just stood there, plastic crown crooked on his head, and his face softened. Oh, he said. Darren followed his gaze and went quiet too. Logan, because Logan had the emotional awareness of a vending machine, just blinked and said, So are we still pretending this was not obvious? Trevor slapped his arm. Shut up. Miles squeezed my hand once. Not hard. Just enough to ask if I was okay. I squeezed back. We are figuring it out, Miles told them. Simple. No performance. No apology. No fake couple challenge. Just the truth, plain enough to survive the room. Trevor nodded like he understood that this was not the time to turn us into a bit. Cool, he said. Then, after a pause, really cool. I looked at Miles, and he was already looking at me. Of course he was. Later, we packed the car together. Not because we had to, because neither of us seemed ready to stop standing close. I gave him back his hoodie, and he immediately handed it to me again. Keep it. Miles, it is your hoodie. Yeah, I know. He leaned against the passenger door, hands in his pockets, trying and failing to look casual. You look better in it. Heat climbed up my neck. That was awful. It was honest. That shut me up. On the drive back to Chicago, the others fell asleep one by one. Trevor snored in the back. Darren had his headphones on. Logan kept mumbling nonsense in his sleep. Miles drove with one hand on the wheel, the city getting closer through the windshield, gray afternoon light spilling across his face. I sat beside him, watching the road, watching him, watching my own hand rest on the center console between us. After a mile, his fingers covered mine. Slow, careful, giving me time to move. I did not. He kept his eyes on the road, but his shoulders loosened like he had been holding his breath all day. Still scared. I whispered. He glanced at me, then back at the highway. A little. Me too. His thumb moved over my knuckles. Okay. And weirdly, that was enough. We did not solve everything in one car ride. We did not suddenly become fearless. But we stopped lying. We stopped hiding behind jokes that were too easy to laugh off. When we got back to my apartment, Miles parked outside like he had 100 times before. Usually, he would make some excuse to come up, borrow a charger, steal leftovers, watch one episode that turned into 5. This time, he turned the engine off and looked at me. Can I come up? I smiled. You always do. Yeah. His fingers tightened around mine. But I am asking differently now. My chest warmed in a way that felt new and familiar at the same time. Then yes, I told him. Come up. He smiled like that answer mattered more than he wanted to admit. And as we walked inside, side by side, no metal between us, no dare, no crowd, no excuse, I realized the handcuffs had never been the thing holding us together. They just made it impossible to ignore what already was.